Serious drug dealers of Reddit. Have you ever called CPS on a client? If so, what's the story? Asterisk asterisk attention. Serious tag notice asterisk 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 jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted. https://www.reddit.com/r/askreddit/wiki/index-wiki_6- closing parenthesis any asterisk comment parent or child, asterisk parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies, asterisk report comments that violate these rules, posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. Asterisk I'm a bot and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message compose to equals ask Reddit if you have any questions or concerns. Asterisk. This was a long time ago, and I've since gotten clean and started my own family. But there was a girl I knew who was homeless with her newborn son. On Easter weekend, I was walking on this trail to go meet with some people to sell them a sack. It started raining and that, of course, made me mad. There's these bridges that cross over the top of the trail and lots of kids gather and smoke or get spun under the bridges, and that's where I found her. She was passed out drunk with some random guy under the bridge while her newborn baby sat strapped in his car seat in the rain. He wasn't under the bridge, he was crying, and he looked dirty. I didn't have any children at this point, but I panicked seeing the little guy. I grabbed him, dropped all the shit I was supposed to be selling, and walked off the trail and up the couple blocks to the police station. I told them what happened and where I'd found him. CPS took him and he ended up getting adopted. Edit. Wow guys, thanks for the awards. Y'all are amazing. I like to believe I was just the first one to come across that scene. I want to think that nobody would leave an infant in the rain clearly being ignored, neglected by his obviously incapacitated mother. Caretakers. Former dealer here. It's been many years now, but I sold crack, heroin, pills, cocaine as a teenager. I once had a lady come in the trap house with a newborn. She was literally selling herself and or her baby for a few rocks. When I saw the newborn in shitty diapers and dirty as fuck, I knew I had to give her a few rocks. I let her smoke and leave. I also called BCW, Bureau of Children's Welfare, on her as soon as she walked out. She lived on my street. I couldn't let her try to sell her baby. I couldn't let her keep it either. I just couldn't call the police. The baby was in a foster home less than a week later. The lady disappeared shortly after. I never saw her again. I hope she never got the baby back. She was a real piece of shit. Removed. When I was selling to her, a lady shook her crying baby in front of me. I wigged out, took the baby, dumped approximately $500 worth of cocaine and heroin and called 911 from my car. She didn't put up a fight until the cops came to arrest her. She tried to sue me for kidnapping. Definitely not the best strategy for me. I was 18 and addicted pretty bad, but when the baby saw a doctor under state care, he was covered in bruises, a couple of burns, and had 2 broken ribs already. I'm convinced she would have killed him. He's 10 now and happy and thriving. The whole experience and legal battle when she tried to have me charged with kidnapping is how I got sober. I used to deal way back when I was a hot mess in an extremely abusive relationship. I called CPS on not only one person, but 6. The one that sticks with me most though, not only because of the severity, but because I called twice, was this couple who used to pick up from me at a laundromat, and we ended up seeing each other often enough I felt okay to go to their place. I was so fucking floored when I stepped through that door. I kid you not, they had taken up all the carpeting in the house, and had torn down the walls to get at the copper wiring and pipes. They had no electricity or running water. There was nothing in that house except for some sleeping bags in what used to be the living room. And then I noticed a nest of blankets with bright blue eyes peering at me over the pile, and realized that there was a toddler and a small child no more than 5. Until this point, I had never seen nor heard him talk about having kids. The poor kids were filthy and obviously malnourished. The house stunk of meth so badly I gagged. I couldn't believe it. I guess the look of shock was super apparent on my face because the dads said they were squatting and introduced me to their kids. I made some small talk and then left. The phone was ringing for CPS. Before I closed my car door, I gave them the address and let them know the conditions of the home. And they were squatting with 2 small children. Gave the names of the parents as I knew them and the names of the kids. They ended up going to jail for the squatting, and the kids went to live with a relative. They ended up contacting me back to sell to them after they were bailed out of jail, and I never responded. However, the guy I was with at the time ended up selling to them, and they were living in a field in a tent with the kids. I got into a huge fight with my boyfriend over it and was so disgusted he still sold to them. I ended up calling CPS on them again. From what I heard from other people that knew them, the kids were taken permanently after that, and about a year later the mum ended up going to prison for attempted murder and the dad went to prison for check fraud some weeks after that. Edit: I should have mentioned that I sold weed, shrooms, X and acid. Ah yes, back when I was younger, maybe 17, I got my first job at Domino's Pizza. One of my managers was a really scummy 24-year-old guy that looked like a troll, had astoundingly bad hygiene and also a shitty attitude, but sold good weed and bought me cigarettes. This was my first experience having older friends able to get me good stuff on demand like that. One day he hooked me up with a friend of his that was selling mushrooms, so I met with that guy and bought an ounce, and then walked to my manager's house to sell him some and also get some weed. So turns out him and his similarly aged sister, who has a 1-year-old baby, both live in makeshift bedsheet bedrooms in the basement of the tiny house. They smoked inside, windows closed. Cats everywhere, bugs everywhere, weird gross sour smells coming from all areas. Everything gross. Their mum was home but she was senile and addicted to painkillers, as well as the sister. So we did the trade downstairs, and when I go back upstairs I go to the kitchen to throw some stuff away and I see the baby in a hay chair, eating a pack of cigarettes. He's just sitting there tearing them open and putting in his mouth and spitting it out. I ran downstairs and told the sister and she just started yelling, "Mum! Mum, get the baby!" a couple times lazily, then gives up and goes back to just sitting there. It was surreal. I hadn't ever experienced such neglect and disgust from people. I left and waited 2 days to call CPS because I didn't want my manager to know it was me who called. I know the kids got taken away and she went to live with a different family member, or at least that's what I was told. I'm not a dealer, but I called CPS on my sister. She smoked a lot of pot, not a huge deal, but one day when I was picking him up to come to my house, she was on the floor smoking a bowl with him right next to her. She also told my husband there was meth in the house and her boyfriend was on acid. They also fought constantly, and I know it got physical. There was a time he threatened her and said, "If you weren't holding him, I'd beat the shit out of you." She always complained that he never slept, but the first night he was at my house, he fell asleep with no issue and did perfectly all week long. For the first 17 weeks of her pregnancy she was high, and told the doctors so it's frustrating that she got past that. She called me one day because they had been by the do a wellness check, so I went to pick the baby up, 8-month-old. The house was fucking disgusting. I had never seen anything like it. There were piles of trash bags filled with diapers and rotting food. Counters were covered. The floors when I sat down felt nasty. The baby was in only a diaper, normal for his age. But all of his clothes were dirty. She packed a bag for him to stay the night with me. He had multiple patches of ringworm, one the size of a quarter, and his bag clothes and car seat were filled with cockroaches. My husband swears up and down he found bedbugs in the baby's car seat. We threw the car seat away and washed all of his clothes, and then went and bought him a new car seat, bought one for my house, and new one for her. We had the baby for a week and CPS never showed back up, so she asked for him back. We didn't have any signed statements saying she gave us permission to take him, so we were worried if we said no she'd try and get us for kidnapping, so we gave him back. We took her to Walmart to buy soap, her car seat, and meds for the ringworm. The next day I called CPS and filed as a mandated reporter and told them everything I knew. It's been 3 weeks and nothing has come out. But I talked to my sister a little while ago and asked about the ringworm. She said it's still there and that the doctors say there's nothing they can do, which I know is bullshit. It broke my heart to call, but I had to. It kills me knowing he's in that house and I feel helpless. There's nothing else I can do. It's hard enough. My husband and I have our own 5-month-old baby, but I would take that little boy in a heartbeat, because at least I know he'd be in a clean, safe house with people to take care of him. He doesn't deserve that. Edit. I just want to thank everyone for their support in this. It's one of the harder things I've gone through with my husband, and he has been so supportive and understanding. He's all for taking the baby if we get the chance. We're stressed out with life in general, and a new baby, plus trying to do everything we can to make sure my sister's baby is safe. Sometimes I sit back and remind myself how that baby's life is, and that no matter what, I can't give up on him. Yes, we have called CPS multiple times, as well as the cops. I have pictures of the ringworm and a message from her saying the doctors can't do anything. I don't have any pictures of her apartment. I go in very rarely, and after the one wellness check that was done, she's pretty reluctant to let people around. Even when two cops knocked on her door for the check, she refused to let them into the house. I don't know if they saw the baby or not. I don't know how much more I can do if the cops can't even get in. I'm trying my hardest, I seriously am. I feel helpless because with everything I'm doing, nothing seems to be coming out of it. I call for updated every other day on the case, and I keep getting told to call back, and I plan to until someone tells me to go get the baby. Everyone who has seen or heard has made a report. I've offered to help her get away from her boyfriend and even let her and the baby move in with us, but she refuses to leave him. I've asked her to let me keep the baby, but the longest we did was a week, and she demanded we gave him back. She doesn't work, neither does the boyfriend. They live in government housing. The baby doesn't go to daycare. And she doesn't have health insurance as far as I know. I didn't know what else to do. I don't have too much knowledge other than my own experiences, and I have never dealt with something like this before. Neither has my husband. It is so hard, and you have no idea how helpful a few strangers' support is to me. So thank you guys so much. Removed twice. Left anonymous tips, which I know are hard to follow up for such a strange child protection agency, but as a pot dealer it was all I felt I could do. I found out later one of the kids was put into foster care, adopted by the foster parents, and recently graduated a trade school. I have no idea about the other kids' siblings, but I hope they made it too. Kids should be protected. Humans only get one childhood. Let's let kids enjoy it, and grow to happy adults. Don't hurt them, intentionally or by your own stupidity. Asterisk asterisk. Asterisk asterisk. That also means washing your hands, people. Edit 1. Thanks for all the kind words, guys. A guy in the comments pointed out something that everyone should know. If you need to report to CPS, you flood them with details. Lots of details. It's the only way they can act. A one-sentence tip won't cut it. Thank you to everyone who stood up for the children. I want to share my story, being on the opposite side of you. Many B's question. I was a user whose dealer called CPS on them. Many years ago, me and my partner were addicted to opiates. We had a steady dealer for a while, and eventually my partner was able to start selling after finding a new source. Well, our old dealer didn't like losing business, so he hit us where it would hurt the most. Our child. He had called and made up some bogus claims. When the police came, it was just me and the child, and the place was clean and had food. I got him to leave, but CPS showed up a couple hours later. The truth is, we were full-on functioning addicts who wanted freedom, but didn't know where to seek it. We followed the requests of CPS and the drug court exactly how they asked, and with no setbacks. Both have completed 3 months of residential and 3 months of outpatient treatment, and we're back home with our child in time for the holidays. We have been sober since 2012. The reason I want to share this is to give thanks for those of you who have had to make that call. Not only did my child get a chance at a good life, our whole family did. Real short and simple. Yes, a friend of my girlfriend introduced us to her neighbors who were like 50 to 60-year-old hippies that looked like a bad acid trip, but bought weed regularly for full price. Couple months down the road, they start being more friendly with my girlfriend and I, and start talking more when we'd go drop off the shit. The topic began with her telling us how she has custody of her daughter's oldest born because her daughter was sitting time at women's prison. Backstory on the kid: looks 15 but clearly has the mind capacity of a 6 or 7-year-old. Not sure what was wrong with her specifically, but you could tell there were issues. Near the end of the conversation about her daughter, she brought up the fact that her granddaughter was prescribed Adderall 30XR, and whenever they got her prescription, they'd dump all the little beads into a bowl to use whenever they couldn't find meth or whatever they needed, and instead fill the Adderall with Benadryl to make the kid sleep. Till this day, I'll never forget the emotions I felt after getting out of there and sitting in my car. My hands were shaking so bad it was hard to Google information about CPS, much less type information in. I felt goosebumps in every pore of my scalp. As a father of 2, I never knew such evil existed. Obviously in movies and shit, but never experienced something firsthand like that. My time has come. I was around 15 to 16 in high school, selling mostly acid and ecstasy. I was doing it to save up money for a car and in the future, college. There was this one girl I would never sell to, because she was pregnant. She was one of those girls that got pregnant with an older dude and he left the picture. She didn't want the baby but her parents made her keep it. Finally, not long after she gave birth, she was trying to buy some XAC. She was in my car and I was giving her, I think, around 2 or 3 pills. That's around $40 minus $55, and she says, "I'm going to be honest, I don't have money. But I know you have a girlfriend you really love, so I was thinking about giving you my baby." I didn't say anything for a little. I couldn't tell if she was serious. Then after a long pause I told her to get out of my car. Later in the day I had my parents call CPS. For obvious reasons I came up with the story that me and the girl were friends and that she was telling me how she would trade the baby for drugs. I'm not sure, but I think the baby ended up going with a family member and is living off completely normal life. This is a sad story, but I'll tell it anyways because it was the past. There have been so many stories, but this one takes the cake. It's the reason I stopped selling and turned my life around. I must have been 16 or 17 at the time. I was in high school, also had a part-time job at Dairy Queen, and on top school and regular job, I was selling crack and heroin. I was also selling weed and cigarettes at school. This story involves a heroin and crack user. At the time of this incident, I've already been selling hard for about 1 or 2 years. Profit was pretty good, I'd say around $300 per day on average, which was great for my age, but I spent money as fast as it came. I was young and I was dumb, so as a DD selling raw crack and pants heroin, I would use some addict's house to sell out of. I guess the cops would call these things crack shacks or projects. I'd be supplying the addict a cheaper price for products so that I could use their house to sell out of. They would also refer a lot of other people to buy from me, and or they would help sell for me in return for product. So the incident is in this addict's house. He, about 50-year-old man, has a girlfriend, partner or something like that. The girlfriend had a little boy, maybe the age of 3/4. At the time I didn't know how to tell how old a kid was. I didn't ask either because I was ashamed of myself for not preventing his mother from using this kid, though I felt like he was my little brother in some way. I would cook for him when he was hungry and his mum was always too messed up to do anything. One day, I go to work at the shack. It was a regular day. I get into the house, get my products ready, weigh out the stuff and bag 'em up. Knock on the bedroom door of the guy homeowner. I see him sleeping. His girlfriend is also on the couch sleeping because she is always high and messed up. The kid is just sitting there watching TV. I make him some macaroni and cheese. Now I gotta wake up the guy because I need an update on what products he's moved the day before. So I go in his room. I see his eyes were still open. White foam all over him like HES overdosed. It's normal for me to see overdoses, but this was beyond an overdose. He's been overdosed for too long, which means HES dead. He was probably overdosed for at least 10 hours because I could smell it and he was cold to the touch. His vomit was dried and his eyes were dried. Now I'm in one of the biggest panics I've ever been in. As I'm trying to figure out what to do, I sit down with the kid and stay there until he finishes his mac and cheese, thinking about what I'm going to do next. His mum, sleeping behind me on the couch, is still alive, but has no idea what had happened, or maybe she does, I don't know. I left the shack, drove about 2 blocks away, used the prepaid cell phone. I have to call the police and report it. Sat in my car until the police showed up. From that day on, I am anti-hard drugs. I still wonder about the little kid. He is probably 16 now without a mum. Every time I see the mac and cheese at the supermarket I get this fucked up feeling in my gut. And for the guy that died, I know I didn't kill him, I've accepted that, but could he have lived longer if I was never in his life? His life story was pretty amazing. He did cool things when he was young. He got into drugs when his mum passed away. He didn't have a dad though. One tip for anyone reading this: never judge a person on where they're in life, even if they are crack heads, as many people would say. Some people go through the most brutal situations and have no love and support to get on their feet. I'm glad I was able to be the man's friend before he died, and I know I treated the kid as a big brother, father, and I hope he remembers that part. Back in college I went over to a single mother's house to drop off some bud. The kid was 3 years old. I walk in and notice it is extremely smoky, and I immediately have hard time breathing. It smelled like rotten shit, trash, and cigarettes. I was there for about 3 minutes and went to use the bathroom, where I noticed fresh and dry blood on the toilet and shit smeared all over the floors and up the walls. The shit was old and hardened, and dead bugs were in the corners of the bathroom and piled on top of the feces. But that isn't the only icing on the cake. Once I left the bathroom, I went back out to the living room area and saw a big-ass rat run right across the floor. Looked like he came right out of Ratatouille. Then the mother asked me if I wanted to take opioids. So I got the fuck out of the house and called CPS. Deleted. Removed. I was selling a variety of drugs a few years ago. I had one friend, let's call him Chris. He stayed at his F-head uncle's house with his uncle. His name's Rick. Fuck him, I'll use his real name. His cousin, and his cousin's kids, around 4 to 6. I hated going to this house because all they did was cook meth inside, literally feet away from these children. These kids lacked clothes, they barely ate. I'm pretty sure they were never enrolled in school either. Well, eventually I get fed up and decide to make a call to CPS. They go in and what they found was horrifying. The Uncle Rick had a hard drive with thousands of naked photos of the children. They also found out he was prostituting the kids for meth and heroin. When I found this out I was absolutely appalled. He's in jail and honestly, I hope he doesn't make it. Removed. Deleted.